Welcome to the Red Shed Woodworking. This is my shed. Well, to be fair, it's a barn. And this is my workshop. Well, yeah, I know. But this is what I've got to work with, so I figured I'd take you along for the ride. I've got all my tools here, and as you can see, they need a little bit of work. This is my table saw down here. Well, here's most of my table saw. There's some parts up there. I've got this shelf over here is just full of stuff and it needs going through. I need to put up shelves. I need to do cabinets. I need to build a workshop. So how did we get here? How did I end up in a barn? Well, a bunch of years ago, I set up a workshop. I bought some new tools, got some old tools, and I inherited some tools. And I started working on some projects just around the house. I really enjoyed it. I made some things for the house. I made some gifts for family and friends. I made some things that I was proud of. But life happens, and family demanded a little more attention, and I had some other priorities and other hobbies that stepped to the forefront, and the workshop got put on hold. The tools got put in storage, and my skills got a little rusty, and so did the tools. But now, some 15 years later, the priorities have waned a bit, and I've got some time to do some woodworking that I really enjoy doing. So it's time to sharpen up the tools and the skills and set up my workshop. I've already done a little bit of woodworking on this thing. I built this door. But now I need to take my skills inside, see what we can do for this place. As you can see, it's a little bit drafty. As I'm talking to you, it is now February, and I'm on the mid-Atlantic coast, so it's not supposed to be as nice as it is today, and it's not going to hold up. So if I'm going to do anything in here, I've got to get these cracks sealed up, and they're all over. As you can see up there, there's a lot of heat leakage. The ceiling is just tin. It's a nice tin. It's been done pretty recently, so it's at least dry in here, at least until the wind blows and drives the rain through the windows and the cracks in the wall. A little bit of tar paper, a little bit of plywood on the walls. Maybe we can make something of it. Oh, haven't told you yet. I have no budget. And by no budget, that does not mean money's no object. No, that's not what it means. That means I have no budget. So this place that I have here is not mine. So I am bartering time and work around the place in order to store my stuff here to make a workshop. So I've got to make the best of it. So let's get going. Today I'm going to do a little experiment. I mean, it's not an experiment. It's well documented on YouTube that this stuff works. I'm just going to de-rust some tools using some vinegar. I went through my tools. I've got this old box here that was full of tools I rescued from other old toolboxes, and they're pretty rusty. And I'm going to put all these in a plastic bucket full of just white distilled vinegar. And I'm just going to leave them for, the people on YouTube are doing it for like 24 hours. I'm going to leave it longer than that. These things are pretty bad, and I don't think it's going to hurt them. So I'm going to leave them in here for a couple of days, give them the best shot possible, and then I'm going to wire brush them off or something and see how well they come back. I've got an old gasket scraper here that is just rusty as can be. I've got some duckbill pliers. These things don't open. I've got an old offset screwdriver here, and the chrome is completely gone on this. And I've got some lock ring pliers, and these things have seen better days. They're just completely rusted shut. I can't get them open. Oh, maybe I can get them open, but they're shot. So I'm going to see if I can bring these things back. Let me show you a little close up what we got. Continuing the I saw it on YouTube trend, I've got a couple of these side wings from my table saw back here. You can tell these things were not stored properly. I'll give you some close-ups here. The one on your left, I tried to work on the other day. I just used this orbital sander and put some sandpaper on there and just gave it a good go. It came up a little bit. It looked almost as bad as this one. It still has some pretty good rust staining up here and back here. The middle looks okay. I think there was something sitting on top of this that prevented some of the rust. It's got a couple of pretty good pits in here that I think isn't going to be taken off with anything short of machining this down again. But I looked up a couple of videos on YouTube to find out what people were doing about this, and I kind of saw what I expected. And they were saying WD-40 or some other kind of lubricant while you're sanding. And that's a great idea. Only I don't have any WD-40. I thought I had some out here. I came out and looked at it. Sure enough, I got a can of WD-40, but it's the silicone dry spray, and it apparently dries in seconds. That's not what I want. So I've already done the vinegar with the tools, and really all I need is a lubricant for the sandpaper, and vinegar is supposed to be good for taking off rust anyway. So I'm going to lubricate the sandpaper with vinegar, sand this down for a little bit, and see if I can get any better progress than what I made the other day with just bare dry sandpaper. I'll work on this one a little bit. I'm also going to work on this one to see where this one comes up to. I don't think this one has as bad of pitting as this one did, so I'm curious to see how this one comes up, and then whatever progress I make, if it works out pretty well, then I'm going to attack the top of this. Again, this one seems to be mostly surface rust and not any huge bits of pitting, so I have hopes for this one. Let's see what we get. After about 20 minutes of work, this is what I've come up with. I spent time kind of over here. For this last third, I switched to 100 grit sandpaper. I didn't have anything heavier than that. I tried some old 60 grit paper that I had, but it was old and it fell apart in about a minute under the vinegar. So I had to do the 100, and it did a decent job. Over here is pretty smooth. I think a little more work on this would make it look better. There's still some good texture here that needs to get cut through. I'd like for everything to come up looking like this, because this is smooth and nearly pristine. There's no real big pits like I saw on this one, so I'm hopeful that a lot more work will get this down a lot smoother. And once I get some kind of a process, I'll head to the main table saw. Now, I don't know if the vinegar is doing anything to cure some of that. Perhaps I'll go back over some of this and see if I can cut it down even farther. If you recall, this is the one I worked on the other day, just using dry sanding. And it's still, I haven't done anything to it yet, so this is the way it looked. And this is the one that I worked on just for the last hour or so, using the wet sanding, and it's come up pretty good. I'm gonna give a little more time to this one and see what I can make this look like with fresh sandpaper sheets every 5 minutes and the vinegar. See what I can get out of it. definitely smoother. Still pits in here, some down there, definitely smoother. Do the other side. It's been about 24 hours, give or take, and let's see what happened to these tools that have been in the vinegar. Now, I know it works, so I just want to see what's going to happen. I thought that plating was worse than that, so that came out pretty good. Now, when I put these in, they were very tight. I pulled them out after a couple of hours yesterday, and they seemed better. Not bad. I'll put that back in my toolbox. These I'm a little bit concerned about. Whatever that plating is that they put on there is coming off. But it is going back to the metal. Now I have to hope that the springs just kind of cure themselves, because I can't really get in there without a pick and pull the springs apart and do it all that way. There's still some heavy deposits there, but it looks much, much better. Yeah, that came right off. Again, the plating is missing. I can live with that. All right, well that's it. I think they did pretty well. I'm going to put some of these back in, probably let them soak for a little bit longer. And we'll check them, or I probably won't even put that on camera, you've seen enough. But I'll finish cleaning these up once they've soaked for a little bit. Alright, cool. Wanted to show you something that I found around here. I've been doing some work in some of the outbuildings around here. And I was looking through the outbuilding and I found something that's kind of neat. I thought you might want to see. It's some kind of box. I don't know if it was a fishing box, picnic box, tool box, but it's pretty cool. It has these levels that come open, sides come open. They all still work. All the hinges are still there. The side comes open as well. And what's neat is this side still has the lid. The lid is hinged open, has an interesting shape to the handle there. And not sure if you can see it, but there's still one divider left in there in the drawer. And this is the kind of stuff I love to see, because I'd love to fix this. When the workshop gets up and running, this is the kind of thing that I like. I would like to be able to fix this, or if it can't be fixed, possibly rebuild it. Take it apart, see how it was made, and make another one. Or make a bunch. This might be something that would, who knows, it might sell these days. But it's just kind of an interesting piece, and I'd love to clean it up and get it back working again. I'd have to build another lid to put on top here, make some more dividers for the inside, but I think it's pretty nifty. That I didn't see. Who spotted him? I didn't. Now you see this thing has no bottom, so that would have to be created as well. Looks like the bottom edge has a slot for the bottom to go in, but the bottom edge isn't complete the whole way around, so that could be a problem. All right, guy, we're going to leave you alone. I think that's looking pretty good. Wow. If that keeps up, I'll be happy with that. And what's nice with the WD-40 over the vinegar, I wasn't sure with the vinegar how water-based it was, and I was hesitant to leave it on there for any time at all. You don't have to worry about leaving a WD-40 on there because it is penetrant and what do they say it is? Removes and protects and penetrates rust and all that. So you don't have to worry about leaving that on there while you're changing paper or leaving for the night or whatever. It's protecting it while it's sitting there, so that's kind of a nice thing. And it does seem to be cutting through. It'll get its workout when we go to the tabletop, but I think this is the way to go. The heavier grit and WD-40, and I think that the main part of the table saw should have a good chance. Let's keep going. See what it looks like. I left that one sheet of paper on there to see if the WD-40 would allow my sandpaper to last longer than it did yesterday. And I don't know. It still looks better down here where I started. And it does seem to have brought the background a lot brighter. These pieces seem more prominent against the lighter background, but they have gotten a little bit smaller. They feel smoother, probably because of the lubricant. I think I could probably spend more time with a new pad over here and get these darker places that you can't see in the glare. There are some darker spots up in here that I think I could probably do a better job with more paper. But besides this horrible spot here, some of these spots kind of came out from the background. I might be able to get this better. Let me change the paper and try again. Is not as bad as that one wing was. You can see where my featherboard was sitting on clamped to the top for a long time. So I think this will come down at least as good as those wings. The difference is I've got these T-slots for the miter gauge that I'm gonna have to clean down inside of. Now, they don't look too bad. They're just brown down inside there. They don't seem to be pitted at all, but those will have to be cleaned out. this is looking better. Now, I will explain something that I figured out in the middle of doing this. Over here and over here were about the same amount of corrosion, but I used different sandpaper on it. They were both 100 grit, but the 100 grit that I've been using, I finally read the back of it, and it says garnet sandpaper. Garnet is the grit that they use for the abrasive. It's, you know, crushed garnet stone. And garnet is very soft, and it will crush and fall apart, so your paper gets dull, and it's not really made for something hard like metal, sanding, rust, or paint. It's basically just for wood, which is probably why I have it. But it was the wrong stuff to use on this. Now, I searched around, and I happened to have some old, waterlogged sandpaper. Again, 100 grit. But looking at the package, this is the aluminum oxide, and it's supposed to be sharper and last longer, and it's better for things like metal. So I switched, and I did this in about the same amount of time that I spent on this, and it went right down to the cast iron. It bypassed this stage altogether. So then I took that same piece of paper after having sanded this and redid this, and it took it back down to the cast iron, even with an old used piece of paper. So then, feeling emboldened, I put the same 100 grit sheet on a new fresh piece, and I did this, and it came up pretty nicely. So now I'm pretty happy. This looks pretty good. I know it still looks horrible, but it is smooth. There are no big pits in it like I was finding on the wings. So I feel pretty good that this will come up without having any big problems. So I'm going to put another fresh sheet of paper on it. I'm going to go back over these, and I'll check back in and show you what kind of progress we made. Would you look at it? I mean, would you look at it? That looks pretty good. Now, it's not perfect. I'm not done. I got a long way to go still. But I think that's better than I was expecting it to be by the end of this day. Still some dark spots down here. I gotta get around this little adjustment portal. I've even done down inside these T-slots, and they came up surprisingly quickly. I might be able to put more pressure on it by hand, so I might switch from the sander now to handwork, and with the WD-40 and some hand sanding, I might be able to get this looking pretty good. I don't seem to be putting any sandpaper scratches in the cast iron. I'm not so concerned about that. But I think it's looking pretty good. Now, this being the part of the saw that's the closest to the blade, this is going to be the most important part, because all the small pieces you make are going to be very close to the blade, and you want them to run smoothly across the tabletop. The wings are only really going to come into play with bigger pieces, or if you're cutting sheet goods or something, and this is going to be the part that's the most critical. So I want this to be as clean as possible near the blade. And again, I'm very happy that I don't see any larger pits and corrosion in this area. So very good. We will get back to this again.